I met this girl on vacation. We hit it off, and of course we followed each other on Instagram. I thought we were gonna be Instagram friends, you know, follow each other, maybe see each other again one day. But fate had different plans in mind. Before too long, there was a voice in my head, an evil voice. What if she unfollowed you, man? You should check. This isn't even something I should care about. Before I knew it, I was typing, searching through my followers list, and sure enough, she wasn't there. Anyway, I haven't been crying about it. Here's a few clips of where I'm at now. Eastern Europe. If my comfort zone is here, I left it a month ago and now I'm here in unknown territory. Anyway, Instagram. You can go to the other side of the world, but you can't escape your urge to check it every 10 minutes. It's truly a platform of vanity, betrayal, and paranoia. Alright guys, I don't care that much, but I thought it would be fun to make an Instagram bot to see who unfollowed you. That is, see who's in your following list that does not follow you back. Even if you totally suck at coding, you can still follow along. And by learning this simple bot, you can go on and work on your own ideas. Like I said, we're gonna keep this really simple. I'm just gonna set a few things up. For this bot, I'm gonna be using Python 3. So I'll set up that environment. Then I'll activate it. Finally, I'll install our one dependency for this project, Selenium. Selenium's gonna be the bread and butter of this project, and I couldn't have said it better than the website. It allows us to impersonate a user in a browser. The key thing we need actually is the WebDriver. And we actually have to download the Chrome WebDriver from a different website, and it's called Chrome Driver, Chromium. So I'm gonna click that, and then get the Mac 64 version. Now I'm just gonna move that unzipped file into user local bin. Really quick, let's just see that in action and make sure it works. So let's import the Selenium WebDriver. I wanna make a class for this bot that we can add methods to do different things. We always need an init function with a class, which will be run when we create a new version of that class. Here's how I start up that WebDriver. And let's just open Instagram with that. So we have our class, now we just have to create a version of that class, or an instance. I just added self here to make sure it worked. Now you can run any Python file with Python or Python, in my case, 3. Let's add code to log in directly in our init function because we can't really do anything without logging in. First, let's sleep for the initial page load. Then we need a username and password, so let's take these as inputs when we create the class. I'm gonna put in my username here, but I don't want you guys to see my password, so I'm gonna put it in a different file and then import that file. So let's open up Instagram again and see what we can do by looking at the page. What we already know we need to do is click this login button right here. So we need a way to select this actual button, and the best way to do that is with something called XPath. I'm gonna right click and hit inspect. This opens the console and we can see all the HTML on our page with the element we selected highlighted. Now basically we need a way to tell the browser this is the element we want so we can interact with it. XPath is the best way to do that because you just pass a string of text to identify this object. Now there's an easy and a hard way to do it. The easy way, you can just right click and then you can go to copy full XPath. Find element by XPath and then paste that right in. Maybe you can already see why this is not my favorite way to do it because it's a super long and unreadable query and you can't really tell what it's selecting by reading the code. You can read up a bunch on XPaths and writing queries, but I'll just show you mine. This is basically a link that contains the text login, and this will work just as well. Then all we have to do is click. So let's see if this does what we want. It did take us to the login page. Next thing we want to do is, and I will simulate it here, type some text in here and type some text in here, and then hit this login button. So we do that in the same way. I'm gonna right click and inspect this input field. We have a property name equals username here, which is a unique property. I'm using this XPath query with name equals username, And then I'm going to go to a new line and do the send keys method. In this case, I'll send the username that we passed in to create our class, which is my Instagram username. I'll inspect the password field, and I'm hoping, yeah, we have name equals password, so I'll do the same there. I'm just gonna replace, and then I'm gonna send keys for my password that's in my secrets file. And then finally, we want to click that login button. Now this button doesn't have a clear unique identifier, but it does have a type submit. So I'm gonna do find element by XPath, button, type submit, and then just click. And of course we need self. And a little more sleep just to make sure everything worked before it closes. All right, that's a lot of new stuff, so let's test that out. So let's keep going. On the left, I still have the incognito window. Even though every time I start the driver, it will start over, this will be like a snapshot of what we're working on now. So when I log in and I don't touch anything, I get this pop-up. Now I want to get out of this, and then I will be good to go, so I always want to hit not now. I'm going to use the same method as before and do the contains text not now. From now on, I'm actually going to fast forward through my Selenium running because it gets a little bit boring. All right, moment of truth. We're up to the pop-up and it closed. So now we can do a lot of different things now that we're in our account. And this is code you can reuse for pretty much any Instagram bot. So the only thing I would add from here is to add self.username equals usernames. We're saving a reference to our username just in case we need it in other methods. I would just want to save my bot in a variable. We know that we want to go to our profile so we can access our followers and our people that we are following. And we could do that by clicking on this username of ours here. href is my username, and that'll take us to our profile. So to click on this first, let's make a new method. We want to find a link that contains property href with the value of our username. Brackets is being replaced by the variable here. There's a few different ways we can run that. We can put it directly here in our file, like that, or we can run it interactively. I'm going to put in a -i for interactive. So that brought us all the way to our pop-up. Our pop-up just closed, and now I have the interactive shell here. Instead of closing, the Selenium window stays open so I can run commands on it. So let's run our new method, getOnFollowers, which should just click that element that takes me to my profile.
We have to get these followers into a Python list and then compare them to following. We're gonna need to open this by clicking it. And then here's the tricky part. They're not all loaded. So we have to scroll continually until they're all loaded. And this is gonna take a lot of time, but at least we're not wasting our time. We can let it run in the background. Even trickier is, notice when I open this, if I scroll to the bottom really fast, I'll get stuck on these suggestions. So what I really have to do is scroll to the middle to get the lazy loading to start working, and then continually scroll to the bottom. If you look carefully, that useless suggestions section is titled with suggestions for you before it disappears. So we want to select that, which is an H4, and get it into a variable sugs for suggestions. That's pretty cool. We can actually execute JavaScript through Selenium. So I'm going to do that with this driver execute script. And I'm going to actually pass in this element. Just know that this string is JavaScript and this is our element. Okay, most complicated part of the whole video. We want to scroll to the bottom until we run out of more followers to load. What I've done is I've initialized two variables, last height and height. On each scroll, we want to compare the height of the box to the height of the box before we tried to scroll. If the height's the same, then we tried to scroll and we didn't get any more results, so we want to stop. Within the while loop, we snapshot last height as the current height, and then we get a new height. We wait for 1 second just to make sure the previous scroll is finished. Now here's the craziest part. We execute a script to do two things. First, we scroll to the bottom of the scroll box, and then we return the height of that scroll box. I swear it looks worse than it actually is. Argument 0 is the tricky part, but just know you can replace that with scroll box in your head. Of course, we also need to select that scroll box with an XPath. So I'm going to inspect.
it doesn't look like there's any good identifier for this scroll box. In this case, I'm just going to copy the XPath. So now we have a crazy amount of new stuff. If this works, we're almost going to be good. Let's try it out. Instead of doing the interactive method, I'll just let it run. Okay, check this out, guys. And we got all the way to the bottom. So how do we get this list of names into a Python list? By using the page inspector that's right here, I can see that each name element is an anchor tag or a link. I'll get these links by finding all the elements in that scroll box that I selected up here and still have a reference to. Then I'll use a bit of clever Python list comprehension to get the text out of those links, if the name, of course, is not blank. Finally, I'm printing the names to see if we get a list that looks like what we want. I just need to run everything again, so I'm going to fast forward through the scrolling. Okay, and we're almost to the bottom here. I just had to make one change and add dot text over here so we could filter out those empty string names. The last thing we want to do is hit this close button. So I'm going to inspect and just copy the XPath again. And here's the XPath. I just put it in and clicked it. Now I'm going to move all this code into its own method, a private method that we can also use for followers. I just moved everything into a getNames private method. The private is just by this underscore. It's just convention for something that we wouldn't access from the outside. And I'm storing those names in a variable called following instead of just printing them. Can't forget to add return names down here. Now I'm just doing exactly the same for followers. I'm opening the followers dialog and then I'm running the exact same code because the box is the same, so we just collect the names in the same way. The final thing I have to do is another list comprehension. I'm just taking all the users in following that are not in followers and putting them into a list. That's how we know who's not following us back. And finally, we just print that list and we're totally done. I'm gonna run the whole thing sped up so you guys can see it from end to end. And then we can also check out our final result and see who we need to have a talk with. All right, here we go. Okay, at this point, we're just performing that dot text operation on 900 individuals, so it's going to take a little while. All right, guys, there's our final list. So it totally worked as expected. All right, guys, I hope you found that video cool. And Instagram is totally shutting down its API by next year, so everything in terms of data collection or user simulations will have to be done this way in the future. So it's good to learn. Also want to give you guys an update on my course. It's going to be super good. It's coming along well. But it's on pause right now because I'm waiting for one piece of sound equipment that is hard to find out here. Anyway, please like and subscribe if you like the video. More tutorials coming soon. And let me know if you have any topic ideas.